Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, the new moon has come and gone, and I've changed out my decks. If you're a returning visitor, you know that I've been using my week ahead spread for these segments, talking about living an intentional life. And I always have my inquiry cards in those spreads. But the Oracle deck and the Tarot deck are different. If you're curious about those decks, at the end of the video there will be information about the creators, and below the video there will be information and links where you can go to purchase these decks if you're interested. Now friends, this is a very new spread for me as well. So let's look at the spread and I'll explain a little bit about it before we dive into the details. Here's the spread. These are very classy looking cards, aren't they? Again, the information about these decks and the creators will be at the end of the video. The Oracle cards, I have them lined out in two sets of three. Yeah? And this is kind of an as above, so below spread, but with a twist. I'm looking at the top cards as where we can place our focus when living intentionally this week. And the bottom three cards are where we are standing. Now, what is our base as we place our focus on the top three cards is information, as we place our focus on what the three cards on top have revealed to us. Now, overall, these 6 cards have cards around them, 4 individual questions. And I've only used 1 tarot card per question this time. It seemed plenty. So the 4 questions on the side and the 6 cards in the center are the totality of this spread. And let's look at the 6 cards in the center. This group of 6 cards is from the astrology-based Oracle deck, and I'll split them up into 2 sets of 3 and dive into those above and below readings in just a moment. But first, let's look at the overall spread of 6. You can see that there are 2 astrology zodiac signs on the top and 1 below. Yeah? The 2 on the top, Virgo and Pisces, are not exactly the most compatible signs in the zodiac. They're not exactly besties. They might not be complete enemies, but they're not best friends by any means. The 1 below is Aquarius, and Aquarius is the revolutionary, right? And so that's part of our base, which is interesting. Now, another interesting thing about this deck of Oracle cards is not only are there elemental associations to the zodiac signs, but the Oracle cards that are added to the more astrological cards also have elemental associations. And looking at this overall spread of 6, 3 of those 6 are earth signs. Earth, our physicality, what we do in the world, and also our grounding. So this spread, I think, is speaking to, as we live our lives intentionally, how we are grounded, where we are grounded. Also, what we stand on and what we are made of, which is a very interesting and important thing to think of when we're living an intentional life. Certainly, we are flowing with the powerful river of intention, somewhat in a stream, a water-like element, but still we want to be grounded. We always want to be grounded within that stream, that current of intention. And so we're looking at that as well in this reading, our grounding. So friends, let's look at the top row of Oracle cards. This first set of 3 cards begins with occult knowledge, and then we have the 2 zodiac signs, the Virgo and Pisces, lined up next to it. The first card, occult knowledge, is associated in this deck with the Hierophant, and with Virgo, interestingly enough. The Hierophant is often not one of many people's favorite cards in the tarot system. It speaks to traditions, to religion, to religious leaders, to authority, spiritual authority. And often it gets a very bad rap. Why? Often with tarot readers, with people who claim that they are spiritual but not religious, there's very good reason. A lot of us say that we are spiritual and not religious because there is some trauma associated with our religious experience when we were children, or at least in our past, before we have perhaps broken away from a church. Now, some of us came from a non-religious home and arrived at our spirituality in a different path. But many of us have had bad experiences with religion, or have bad impressions about religion through media, through other sources, through our friends, through perhaps other family members. And it's completely understandable, and I'm not here to say you've got to join a religion. I'm not here to say that you've got to be Christian or you're going to hell. You've got to be Muslim or you're going to be go to hell. Or you've got to be Buddhist by any means. I'm not here to tell you that you have to find your religion or you're doomed to damnation or an endless cycle of reincarnation and pain and suffering. I'm not here to tell you that by any means. We all have our own paths. However, I also have noticed that in circles such as ours, and I am assuming that you're part of my circle, my extended circle, because you are here watching this video, in the circle of spirituality, in some sectors, there is a stigma against religion. Now, because of perhaps that wounding, because of past pain, past trauma, past indignities in some cases, there is a very bad perception of religion, which is too bad, because that attitude has affected some of us, some others of us within this community, to hide our religious beliefs, to feel that it's not good if I'm Christian, it's not good if I'm Muslim, it's not good if I'm perhaps even Buddhist. If I follow a religion or a structured spiritual path, then perhaps I'm not fully spiritual, I'm just following a leader. Perhaps I'm not fully realized as an individual. Perhaps there's something lacking in me because I need to have that structure. And I think that's very unfortunate. Yeah. And of course, there is conflict with some current strains or trends or paths of spirituality and structured religion. Now, for example, in my case, I'm Roman Catholic. I was born Roman Catholic and I still identify as Roman Catholic, though I have studied Buddhism and experienced Buddhist traditions personally as well. But I'm still fundamentally Roman Catholic. That's where I was born and that's who I will be until I perhaps pass into a new body. I am Roman Catholic. And I also read tarot cards, and I also read oracle cards, and I also am curious about geomancy, and I'm curious about the I Ching, and I'm curious about other cartomancy systems. Now, if I were to go into a Roman Catholic church and say, hey, I'm offering tarot readings out loud, then I would probably get some flack, if not outright scorn and perhaps some derision. So I do need to keep those two somewhat separate. I can't be fully out as a cartomancer within my religious tradition, and that's okay with me. That's okay. I don't have to be all of that in all of my communities. I don't have to be fully Roman Catholic within my tarot community as well. However, there is some stigma against being Roman Catholic or being Christian or being Muslim within our community at times. And that's too bad. I think that's truly unfortunate, because we all have our own spiritual paths, and religion is a fully functioning and absolutely worthy spiritual path. And I wish that we would all be able to openly recognize that for each other. And there are people who do recognize that for each other, but there are people who don't. Blatantly or surreptitiously, there are people who do not recognize religions as being spiritual. And that's too bad, because some of the greatest spiritual teachers in history have come from religions. Yeah? Okay, and are you thinking, well, what about the women? Women need a voice too. There have been very powerful women spiritual teachers within the Roman Catholic tradition. To name a few, Teresa of Avila, Catherine of Siena, Julian of Norway, who was, I think, was still Roman Catholic England at the time. Also, Hildegard of Bingen, who is also a wonderfully artistic spiritual teacher from Bavaria. And there are people on the periphery. One that comes to mind is Marjorie Kemp from the late 13th century, late 13th century, I think, maybe 14th. I'll have to check my dates. But she's late Middle Ages, yeah? Still Roman Catholic England. And these women are spiritual teachers within that religious tradition. So they exist. We exist everywhere, at all times. Hinduism has spiritual teachers, of course. And it's unfortunate that many of us in the West have denied our spiritual traditions in the West and have turned to the East and rejected our own spiritual traditions, thinking that they are somehow less than because of the history, forgetting that there have been histories in the East as well. So, just want to say that there are religious traditions that are rich and can teach us great spiritual truths across the globe. And our tradition is just as worthy as those of others. And so, let's return to this first card, the card of the occult knowledge, the card that associates with the Hierophant. What is this telling us? It's telling us to look to sources outside of ourselves as well. Sure, trusting our intuition, trusting our personal revelations is wonderful. But we also want to look to traditions, and those can be familial traditions. Yeah? There are families of card readers. There are familial traditions of cartomancy, and following that tradition is beautiful. There are societies that we can follow. Yeah, there are lay societies, religious societies that we can come into and learn from. There are Wiccan societies. There are non-religious societies. There are groups of individual New Age thinkers, that New Thought teachers. Any teacher who you can gain something from is wonderful to get something from. Traditions, religious and spiritual, are places for us to learn. And we want to do that. We want to go back and also learn from tradition as we move forward with our intentional life. Because any additional knowledge is only going to increase and expand us in our intentional living. We want to have a scaffolding for us to place the new things that we discover within ourselves. Having a tradition and a framework for our own personal revelations is also very helpful. We want to be open to the advice of others as well. This is a co-creative experience. Living an intentional life is a recognition that everything that we do and experience is a co-creation. And being open to advice from what we see as the outside is a wonderful thing for our development, our personal growth, because we develop blocks, we develop blinds that hide things that we want to evaluate, that will keep us from seeing perhaps some of our shadow, perhaps seeing some of our, again, blind spots. And outside advice can always help. Doesn't mean that we have to follow it strictly, but having that input is a wonderful way for us to grow and expand. So when we do have that, when we have that access to a teacher or teachers or traditions or experience from our community and our family and our culture, when we have that hierophant, understanding, connecting both above and below, what do we do with it? What do we do? Well, this set of cards is telling us two things that we want to balance. We want to balance our Virgo and our Scorpio reception of this knowledge. The Virgo side is the one of routines, of having a standard practice perhaps, of checking in with tradition. Now we want to have regular input from whatever we choose as our source. And Virgo is the one who teaches us routines and getting that input and checking it. Checking for something that looks out of place. Checking for things that don't seem to line up or match, because we don't want to take everything at face value. We want to evaluate it. And just because we find something that perhaps doesn't align with our beliefs or something that doesn't make sense in our present understanding doesn't mean that we reject the whole thing. We just need to reject or perhaps reevaluate the things that are out of place, that don't match. And then we have the Scorpio side. The Scorpio side of intuition. The Scorpio side of communication between the conscious and subconscious. Of diving into the shadows. Of spirituality as a whole. So we have that the Pisces side of us that wants to go into the shadows and experience our spirituality within ourselves and the connection between our personal unconscious and the collective unconscious, between our personal mind and our greater, expansive, eternal minds. Now that Pisces experience of personal spirituality. We want to do both and have a balance of both. And we can do that with learning from our traditions. We learn from our traditions and we get a routine, we look for what matches, what does not match, and then we also filter and experience that within our personal spiritual practice. And that's where we can place our focus this week and perhaps always as we live our intentional life. To remember to look to the outside for guidance, for information, for enlightenment, and also processing it regularly and internally as we balance both our Virgo sides and our Pisces sides. Okay, friends, let's look at the next set of 3 cards. This set of 3 cards is perhaps a little less controversial. Yeah? The first card is a path, a journey. And the next 2 cards we have Aquarius and we have Pluto, a zodiac sign and a former planet. The celestial body formerly known as a planet, Pluto. For me, Pluto is still a planet. I'm not saying that that's scientific fact. I'm saying that's my personal feeling about Pluto. It's a planet to me. So, what do we get? We get the journey. We start off with the fact that we are standing on a journey. Our intentional lives are a journey. Life is a journey. That's why we never get it wrong, because we never get it done, because there is no end to this journey we are on. It's not the end goal, it's the journey, the path that we are on, and how well we are or how open we are to living our intentional lives. It's the journey. And that's where we're standing, and where we're always standing on our journey. And this card is reminding us of that. It's also reminding us to recognize how far we have come on our journeys. We have all come so far. From the moment we arrived and took our breath on this planet, we have already come so far, in many respects. Personally, I believe because in this body, with this spirit, having this human experience, this is not my first, or nor your first, human experience in these bodies. We've had others. Also, that first breath is not our first beginning with this body. We've had 9 months of incarnation in the dark, and having that first breath is, we've already gone through quite a journey to get to that first breath in these bodies as being more independent. Not fully independent. We are never fully independent because this is a co-creative universe. Because there is no true independence. This is only unity. But still, that first sense of feeling more independent in a body, we've already gone through a 9-month journey of growth, of incarnation. So, wherever we are on our paths in these bodies, we have already had quite a journey to get here. And it's good to recognize that, to recognize, I've done it. I've come this far. I am here, and that is wonderful. And then to look ahead. Not to say, I gotta get there, I've gotta get there, I'm not there yet, I haven't gotten there yet, oh my God, what's wrong? Not that, but to look ahead and see that, okay, so I've gotten this far and I'm gonna go where? I'm gonna go that way, and make some evaluations of where we want to go. Because every step we take along our path of our intentional lives is an evaluation. Every evaluation we make, we create something new on our paths. Every time we make an evaluation of, I don't like vanilla, I like chocolate, we've made a new creation, a new experience that we've placed on our path. Yeah? We're always evaluating where our path is going, what direction the current of our intention is leading us. And so also recognizing that as we stand here on our path in the ever-present now, we have come so far and we're choosing where we're going. We also want to have faith. This is the card of having faith in ourselves and the powerful force of intention, the powerful current of intention. Having faith that we are living our lives the best that we can every moment. Also, thinking big. We want to think big without attaching ourselves to the judgment of, oh, well, I'm thinking big, but all I get is small. Yeah, that's judgment. We don't want to judge the experiences we have in that way. We can evaluate them. We can say, okay, that was an experience. I want a different one next time. But we want to think big. We want to allow ourselves the freedom of largeness because we are infinity having a human experience. We are infinite beings having these human experiences, and we are allowed to think big, to dream big, without judging that we haven't gotten there yet, because we will never get there, because this is an infinite journey that we're on. So, the journey card, that's where we're standing. We're standing in the middle of our journey. And that is beautiful. That is wonderful. And Aquarius, what is Aquarius telling us? Aquarius is telling us that we are the truth seekers. We are all the truth seekers. We are seeking the truth of where we are and where we're going, and a little bit of where we've been. Yeah? Looking back and recognizing where we've been gives us a good idea of where we are, but our focus is always where we are and evaluating where we want to go. The truth seeker. We want to expand our minds. Aquarius is an expansive card. Yeah? Remember, we want to dream big, and to dream big, we want to expand our minds, and to expand our minds, we want to learn from our teachers. Because our teachers are the ones who help us to break open. And some of those teachers can actually be spiritual teachers, not teachers of spirituality, but spiritual beings that teach us, that help us have revelations, that give us the call to enlighten, to become enlightened, more than that, to enlighten ourselves, and in extension, as we enlighten ourselves, we enlighten the universe around us. We want to expand our minds. We want to learn more. We want to learn more from ourselves, from our experiences, but also from others. We want to learn more from traditions, from perhaps history, from religions. We can learn from religions. We can learn good stuff from religions as well. Not everything in religion is a bad thing. There are wonderful, beautiful, amazing truths in our religions, and that's how we have gotten to where we are. There are amazing truths within tribal traditions which we can learn from while we don't appropriate them unless we are part of that tribe. Okay? So, we learn from them. We can truly learn from native indigenous cultures as well without appropriating them and taking them as ours. There's a big difference between learning from perhaps a peace pipe tradition or a powwow tradition without trying to imitate it for ourselves. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. But we can learn from it and see, well, is there anything in my tradition that is like that? Can I create something new of myself, my own, that is, that gives me the flavor of that, which is true for me, without appropriating someone else's tools and someone else's culture. We can do that. And that's part of the Aquarius mindset of expansiveness and learning new things, to do more and find our passion for learning. We've all got it. We've all got it. Even if we've covered it up, we've got it, so we can discover it again. And then the last card, the third card, Pluto, can be a scary card for some people. The card of transformation. Pluto is the planet of transformation. And perhaps that's why it transformed from a planet to a celestial body. It's a card of transformation. It's a planet of transformation, of destroying old order. Old order that does not work. Not all old order. We don't want to destroy everything just because it's old. That's not Pluto. Pluto is not destroying things because they're old, but destroying old things that are not working anymore, that are not working for us and that are not working for us. And that's all that we can destroy. We do not want to go out and destroy other people's religious traditions. It's not our place, and it's not our place to judge. Enjoy what we have and our own personal things, and evaluate what's there. What's working? What's working? Let's make it bigger. Let's make it more powerful. Let's expand on it. Let's see where it can lead us. And things that don't work for us, well, we can let them go. We can destroy them emotionally and intellectually. We can destroy them for ourselves. I've done that myself. I've learned a new way of understanding Roman Catholicism. I've learned a new way of appreciating my Catholic traditions. How about you? Do you have a religious tradition or a spiritual tradition that you might want to reflect on and look at things that are not working for you and destroying those things so that you make room for the things that do work and expand on those? We want to uncover our negative beliefs, our negative habits, our negative thoughts That's Pluto, uncovering all those negative things, not to focus on them, not to think, oh my God, I've got all this negativity. Oh my God, I'm such a negative person. Oh my God, no, 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 no. We want to look at them, to uncover them so that we can let them dissolve. Because truly, all of that negativity only remains negative because it's hidden in the dark. When we bring it out into the light and look at it, it either does one of two things. It either dissolves or it enlightens. It becomes light. So that's what Pluto can help us to do, to look into the shadows and bring out that negativity so that we can allow it to either disappear or to transform into light. We also want to address our own shadows. And part of those shadows might be negative beliefs about spiritual traditions or religious traditions. Is that a shadow element for you? It's a shadow element for many of us. I'm not saying I'm not saying you have to do a religious tradition, you have to be A, B, or C religion, or you're not going to be fully spiritual. I'm not saying that by any means. But many of us are carrying heavy shadows around our religious traditions, and that's something to explore. Because within those shadows there are jewels. I promise you there are jewels within every religious tradition, to be explored, to be revealed, to be incorporated, and to be expanded in our own personal enlightenment. And that's part of living an intentional life. Because the more stuff we are carrying in our shadows that is weighing us down, like ballast on a ship, sinks us into the current and makes us less able to move forward. So, looking at that, we want to do two things. We want to be our Aquarian selves with our Pluto in there. Now we want to be Aquarius in Pluto. Or is it Pluto in Aquarius? It's Pluto in Aquarius. We want to be Pluto in Aquarius. Transformation in expansion. Shadow in light. And that's part of our journey. That's part of our journey that can include traditions, that it can include religious teachers, traditional spiritual teachers within every tradition, any tradition, all traditions, verbal traditions and written traditions. All of that is accessible. Okay, friends, let's look at the four questions that appeared in relation to these 6 cards. This first card, the first question, what can I simplify, is perfect. It's perfect for this spread. All of these questions are perfect for this spread, but this is a perfect place to start, I believe. The first one, what can I simplify? And the thing that we can simplify is the Knight of Swords. What a perfect answer, because it's so true. Yeah, the Knight of Swords, the one who brandishes their thoughts like a weapon, actively cutting away at things, which is sometimes very necessary. But sometimes the Knight of Swords can get a little bit too aggressive. Yeah? We can use our thoughts as a weapon of mass destruction at times. We want to simplify our thoughts. Simplify and perhaps eliminate some of our thinking, especially when it comes to tradition. Now, when we raise our thoughts to attack a tradition, we're not doing anyone any service. We want to simplify our thoughts so that we can receive more, receive the things that are beneficial, and also, instead of fighting against the things, some of the things that are not beneficial for us, we can also let some of that go in our simplifying. Now, of course, there are some things in many religions that do need to be addressed. There are some things that are oppressive to peoples, and I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that at all. But for example, from my tradition, my Roman Catholic tradition, the literal reception of the Bible to me seems inaccurate. And when I hear that, when I hear people saying that you've got to read the Bible literally, I could do one of two things. I could raise my educated thoughts and say, no, you're wrong, you're idiots, you've got to stop. Or I can say, well, that's one perspective, and let it go, because I have my perspective. It's not going to kill me if someone else is saying that they've got to read this chapter of the Bible literally, even though I see the contradictions and know that the Bible was not written as a history book. And to me, it's an allegory. It's something to teach us. We didn't have, the way we think of facts today are not the way that people saw facts in ancient times. It was a completely different mindset. So the authors of ancient texts had different things that they were trying to relate. They weren't writing history books. They were writing understanding books, the way we understand figures in history, the way we understand events in history, rather than the dates, the times, and etc. So, I can do two things. I can get all riled up, I can lift my mental sword and start trying to attack, or I can simplify and realize that I have my opinion, and my opinion is perfectly valid. I believe my opinion is correct, and I have no need to attack anybody else. Simplify. Very simple. It's also a card, getting back to the Knight of Swords, it's also a card of drive to succeed for some people. Yeah? And there are many of us who, and I have experienced it myself, have you experienced this? Living intentional lives, being on a spiritual path, being a spiritual seeker, turning into a spiritual athlete, trying to get spiritual accomplishments, attainments, being ambitious in a very negative sense spiritually. I'm going to achieve this level because what I am now is apparently inadequate, and I want to achieve superiority on my spiritual path. And that's something we want to simplify as well. Yeah? We don't want to have that kind of ambition. Sure, we want to keep moving forward. We want to expand. We want to enlighten more. We were born enlightened. We were born enlightened, and we are enlightened now. We just need to uncover that enlightenment. And that's a process. And we're all living through that process of enlightenment, enlightening. So, we want to simplify that ambition, that drive to get the marks on the scoreboard or to get the trophies, the spiritual trophies. We want to simplify all that. And that's what this card is telling us. That as we learn from teachers, we also want to simplify our reactions and simplify our negative ambition, our yearning, our craving for achievement. We want to grow, we want to expand, and be happy with who we are in the present moment. Let's look at the next set of cards. This is beautiful. This is just beautiful. What do I want to create? So after we've simplified, what do we want to create? Since we've cleared away some space, what do we want to create? And this is a wonderful answer, I think. In this card, it is the Destiny card. But in a normal tarot deck, it's called the Wheel of Fortune. But here it's called Destiny, and it's a beautiful card, isn't it? We have a person sitting in lotus posture with 4 arms, and instead of a full head, the head is expanded into a universe. And the threads of the universe are being woven by the being. Yeah? We are that person. We want to create that, and we are creating that. Living an intentional life, we create our own destiny. We are that being sitting with an expanded mind, weaving our own universes at all times, at every moment of our lives, this now and this now and this now. Every moment we are weaving our own destiny. We are weaving our own universe. And that's what we want to create. We want to create our own destiny. I want to create my own fate. I want to weave the threads. I want to weave my own karma rather than stumbling into my karma of cause and effect and cause and effect. I want to weave my own karma. I want to be selective. Try to be selective of what I am doing and the karma that I will be experiencing as a reaction to the actions I have taken. I want to weave my intentions. I want to weave the path that I'm flowing as I live my intentional life. Not bargaining, not trying to trade this for that, but to create, to know that everything that I'm doing in this moment is creating my next moment. Every thought that I'm thinking in this moment is creating my next moment, and the next, and the next. Realizing that I am weaving, and I want to create, and I am creating my own destiny. Let's look at the next pair of cards. The next card we are looking at, the next question we are looking at is, where is movement needed? And we can always ask ourselves that question. Where is movement needed as I live my intentional life? Where is movement needed for you? The answer to this question in this reading is perfect and a little bit scary for some of us. It is the death card. So this card is not telling us you gotta die. Don't worry, that's not what it says. Movement that is needed is change, transformation. We need to move more freely towards change. We want to be able to let go of what is and move with the current of intention through changes. We want to allow endings to happen for our transformation. We want to let things go. When it's time for some things to go, to leave our experience, a lot of times we grab hold of them and no, don't go. This is mine. This is my lover. This is my art. This is my job. This is my house. This is my child. We want to grab hold and keep those things with us. And sometimes those things, our pets even, they want to leave. We need to be able to allow those things to leave our experience when it's time. I'm not saying pushing things out of our lives. I'm not saying your kid got you mad, get rid of them. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, if your kid made you mad, probably it's not time for your kid to leave your experience because you've still got some relating to do. But there are times when we've got to allow things to move out of our experience. And some of those things are going to be people, and some of those things are going to be pets, and some of those things are going to be occupations. I know I had to let an occupation move out of my experience recently as well. So where's the movement needed? The movement needed is in allowing for change, allowing for transformation. And we can do that within our learning from structures, from learning from teachers. We can allow that transformation and change to happen within a structure of either a religion, a spiritual tradition, or through the experiences with a spiritual teacher. Or again, a spiritual tradition. We want to allow change. So where have we come? We've come from, I want to simplify my thoughts so that I can weave my destiny and I can allow change. Because as I learn, and as I grow, as I enlighten, as I live my intentional life, I'm going to want to let things go. Let's look at that fourth card. I think that the last card of this reading was just perfect. What inspires me? Yeah? What can I simplify to what can I create to what needs movement to what inspires me? And do you see the response, the Tarot's response to this question, what inspires us, is the Hierophant. We're right back to that first card again, which is what made me love this spread so much. Now, what inspires us is the Hierophant. Now, the reason that we want to open ourselves to our traditions, to spiritual teachers, to religious teachers even. We want to open ourselves to our leaders, to our teachers who can connect both the spiritual and the physical, that can bring the spiritual down to us, is because we can get inspiration from that. And inspiration is perhaps the motor, well, adding a motor to your boat as we move forward on the powerful current of intention. We want to allow ourselves to be inspired by our teachers, by our spiritual teachers, whether they're from our religious tradition or our spiritual community, which is separate from a religious tradition, or our cultural traditions. We want to allow ourselves to be inspired by our teachers. And if we're not inspired, that is more of a reflection on us than on the tradition or on the teacher in most cases. For example, in my case, if I go into my tradition, being Roman Catholic, if I go into my Roman Catholic tradition and I look at it and say, I'm not inspired by that. I don't get anything from it. It's not because there is nothing to be gotten from my tradition. It's because I am not open to being inspired by it. There is so much there. There is so much there that can inspire me. There's so much wisdom that can inspire me there. And if I'm not seeing it, it's not the religion, it's not because it's not there, it's because I'm not open to it. And there, in my tradition, just as one tradition, there are so many. I've mentioned many, and there's one I didn't mention. That just came to me. Is Saint Clare of Assisi. Yeah, you've heard of Francis of Assisi. Yeah, very powerful and very popular teacher and spiritual leader from Italy in the Middle Ages. His partner was Saint Clare of Assisi, who also had some remarkable spiritual experiences that are written down. She wasn't much of an author herself, but she had these experiences, and we can be inspired by her. We can be inspired by him, by Saint Francis. We can be inspired by the yogis in Hindu tradition. We can be inspired by shaman in the shamanic traditions. We can be inspired by Confucius. We can be inspired by the Buddha or Guan Yin, or in Korea, Kwan Seum, Bosa. There's so many sources of potential inspiration for us. And that inspiration can help us to expand, to grow, to enlighten. And it's a shame because our shadows have prevented us, have built up a wall between us and our own personal traditions, that we are not open to inspiration from our own cultures. It is sad. It is sad. And I know that being a person in a foreign culture, living in a foreign culture for a very long time, the culture that I am living in is inspired by many different sources. There is Confucianism, Neo-Confucianism. There is a Buddhist culture here still remaining. There is a more traditional, ancient, you might say, Mudang, which is often translated by Koreans as shamanism, a Korean version of shamanism. There are traditions here that I can learn from and be inspired by, but they're not my traditions. My tradition is my Roman Catholic, perhaps mostly Italian Roman Catholic culture. And I can be inspired by that. And you can be inspired by yours, if you allow yourself to. We want to be inspired by our spiritual teachers, wherever they are, in books, in person, on YouTube. We want to be students of those teachers and be inspired by them. We want to look at our religious beliefs and find those things that can inspire us as well. We want to find our guides in connecting heaven to earth. Yeah? We want to connect the above and below. And our teachers can do that for us and improve our own personal connections. Our inspiration can improve our own personal connections. And that's really the purpose for all of this. And no one can connect you for you. No one can connect me for me. But our inspiration from those that appear to be on the outside but are not, our teachers inspire us to strengthen and to broaden and to give energy to our connection, our spiritual connection, which is always there and has always been there. So friends, what are we aiming for? We're aiming for this week and always opening ourselves to our traditions and to our teachers who are available to us, and letting that inspire us as we look where we are, where we've come, and where we're going. And letting those things that are ready to pass out of our experience to pass out. So friends, what does this say to you? Has this struck you in any way? Has this triggered anything for you? I'd love to engage with you. So hit the like button if you feel called to. Share this with anyone who you feel might get benefit from it. Hit the alarm bell so that you get notifications when I upload videos. You probably know that I upload videos at least once a week. Hit the alarms if you really want to get messages, notification messages, and leave comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I love hearing from you. I'd love to engage with you, because that's the reason I'm here. It's because of connection. And friends, as always, there will be information about the decks in just a moment. And I wish you now and always love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.